it's 7 o'clock. I'd like to welcome everybody to the regular meeting of the Lafayette Township Board of Trustees and Fire District, Tuesday, May 26th at 7 p.m. If I get a roll call.
Kittle here.
Bella here.
Paroli here. If everyone would stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So the first item that we have on the agenda for tonight is the consent agenda containing one item, the meeting minutes from May 12th. Did everybody get a chance to review those?
Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes
One
from
second.
May 12th.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. On the fiscal report, we have a couple items. First will be payroll. On the township side, we have pay period May 10th through May 23rd. Payroll for the staff totaling $7,533.19. I'd make a motion to approve.
One second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. For the fire district, same pay period, payroll totaling $27,990.81. I would make a motion to approve payroll.
One second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then we have the monthly pay for the trustees, fiscal officer, and for our zoning inspector, payroll totaling $7,617.34. I'd make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Alright. Have the warrant list, on the township. We have, electronic payments 189/2026 through 202/2026 totaling $16,059.88. Checks, and there were some numbering issues there due to some voided checks, but 37/8/26 through 37/8/36. A few of those are voided as listed on here, totaling $10,145.15 for total electronic payments and checks of $26,205.03. And I would make a motion to approve.
One second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Alright, and then on the fire district side, electronic payments 3/44/2026 through 3/51/2026 totaling $31,454.97. And the bulk of that being the interest payment on the bond for the bill, or the loan for the building. And then checks 2210 through 2212 totaling $3,082.19 for a total of $34,537.16. I would move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Alright. Next item on the agenda is a proposed resolution 2026-39. In working with Sherry, we had a couple of, the culvert project came in a little bit above expectation. The decision to outsource the mowing, we're a little bit short on what we appropriated at the beginning of the year for both the, we've got more sitting in the general fund than what we necessarily have in what we need for road bridge. So basically, in working with Sherry, we felt it was appropriate to increase road and bridge appropriations by $115,000. Doesn't necessarily mean that we'll have to spend it. We're on pace to be below expectations in the general fund, but probably a little bit over on road and bridge. And then the other recommendation was to increase cemetery by $15,000. We didn't appropriate much of the cemetery fund because we were just paying for very nominal charges, but with the mowing contract and a bulk of that being out of there, correct, that's why we were recommending increasing appropriations by $15,000. What this does is we have to, if we're in agreement, we pass a resolution to increase our appropriations. We have to certify that, send it to the auditor's office. The auditor reviews it to make sure that it's still within our certificate of resources, which Sherry and I have verified that it is. but they'll authorize it or sign off on it as a verification step. And then that now allows us to be able to make those expenditures throughout the rest of the year. Doesn't necessarily change what we are required to spend, or what we are going to spend, but gives us the flexibility to be able to pay it out of road and bridge. We're,
Or the cemetery, yeah.
correct.
Okay.
So that would be resolution 2026. Amending the permanent, 2026 permanent appropriations. And again, it just increases, the permanent appropriations for fiscal year 2026 are hereby amended as follows. Fund 2031, which is road and bridge fund appropriations, are increased by $115,000. And Fund 2041, the cemetery fund appropriations, are increased by $15,000. So unless there's any discussion or questions, I would make the motion to adopt resolution 2026-39, amend the appropriations.
So that $130,000 total, was that just not allocated to anything or appropriated to anything?
Correct, so we get a certificate of resources at the beginning of the year that says that we started the year with X number of dollars, we're gonna get tax revenues of this and other revenues of whatever it is, so you have a number that's our total available to spend.
Right.
In the past, and everybody approaches it a little bit differently, but in the past, we would have just appropriate, or some entities choose to appropriate everything, and then you just kind of manage it, whatever. But whatever's on that certificate, if you can't spend everything, because you're going to need some of that money to carry over to the next year. So this year, when we set appropriations, we set them fairly tight. We did not give ourselves a lot of wiggle room, and I think, when we discussed it during the budgeting process, we talked about this potentially being what we would need to do. So we did not appropriate our entire certificate. We actually left a pretty significant chunk.
So there's receipts that weren't appropriated, and now we're just gonna appropriate additional funds to these two
Correct.
accounts. Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
And then, again, this doesn't necessarily mean that we're definitely spending them. It just gives us the flexibility to pay them, especially since it's easier to appropriate this way than it is to necessarily do
Yeah.
fund transfers.
So you made the motion?
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call.
Hello, yes?
Kittle, yes.
Paroli, yes. Alright. The next item, just for brief discussion, I will send, we've kind of touched on it at previous meetings, but we do need to put the depository contracts out for bid. I know we had discussed, obviously, every 5 years we have to put these out, a minimum of every 5 years, so we're due to do that. It's a 2-resolution process, and there's a pretty good Q&A in the auditor's, Keith Faber, on the state auditor of state's website outlining this. If you go look at the 750-page handbook, they've got a whole section that has a pretty good Q&A on there. What I would recommend is just everybody review that before the next meeting. It's a 2-resolution process, so I'll get that out to everybody, sometime this week for review and adoption at the next meeting. But we need to adopt a resolution that basically authorizes the board to put these out to bid. And then we also need to come up with an idea of, who else we may want to reach out to bid on deposits, whether we wanna go with, just our current Westfield Bank, or I forget what the name
Huntington.
change was too, but Huntington and Westfield, where we currently bank. Star Ohio is exempt, so you don't need a depository agreement with them. But ultimately, this process will control who we can bank with for the next 5 years. Not that it can't be revisited or done, but you have to go through this process to have a depository agreement in order for us to have a banking setup with any of these institutions. So I just wanted to make sure we got it on the agenda tonight, because we've been kind of talking about it. I'll get both of those out, but one resolution to start the process, and then there'll be a resolution that follows up when we actually decide who we're gonna award those relationships to. So, I know, and I've drawn a blank on the bank that she's with, but I know one of the residents of the township had reached out because she wanted an opportunity for her bank to have an opportunity, so we'll definitely get them added in as well. So if there's anybody else that you can think of that we should reach out to. And then also, something else for us to work on for next meeting is, probably speak with Sherry, because part of the bid process is you wanna put in whatever requirements we wanna place on the banks, right? Every township township's a little bit different in what they require, so we wanna work with Sherry as to, one, what we're statutorily required to get. For example, check imaging is a big deal. We wanna make sure that we put that on there. She's required to have imaging of all the cash checks as they come through for like the audit process. So obviously, we want that in our RFP or our bid process for the banks. So anything else that we can think of that would be good practice to make sure that we're getting. And then also working with Sherry to have her outline what she needs, because obviously it's a little bit more for the fiscal office than us, but it's our responsibility to kind of walk through this bid process. So I just wanted to have a real quick kind of briefing on that, and I'll get an email out to you guys, here this week with kind of the template for the two resolutions. Obviously, the statutory language will be in there, but not like where they're awarded or everything like that. But that way you guys can take a look at it. If you have any questions, we can work through that as we go through this. We need to get the process done by August. So I mean, we've got some time, but the sooner we get it started, the better.
Right.
And then the tax budget, I know Trustee Kittle, you brought it up at the last meeting, kind of the thought process behind how we wanted to do it. I spoke with Sherry today. I believe you have kind of all the worksheets and everything that were sent out. Did both of you get copies of those from her?
She sent those, yeah.
Okay. So I don't know what your guys' thoughts were. We kind of touched on it briefly at the last meeting, but I think it would be good if we kind of worked independently of us, right? Like, if you need to sit down with Sherry for a little bit, I think it benefits, instead of kind of everybody sitting down at once and one voice potentially,
Okay.
kind of making the decisions, if everybody sits down, because this is kind of very high-level budgeting,
Yeah.
and kind of outline where you're at. We can bring it back to maybe the next meeting and kind of have that preliminary discussion. If we can, I think we'll be able to get through the process without holding a separate work session like we did for the line item budgeting. Because again, this isn't necessarily something that needs to be done at the account code level like we've done in the past. The tax budget is more at the fund level. So that's where I would kind of start, unless there's any, if you guys wanna just schedule a work session, we can, but I think this will be probably a more streamlined process for handling it.
Yeah, let's work through it, on our own for the next couple weeks, and then, we can check in at our next meeting and see if we need to do any, like, right now, I think it's too early to tell if we need a workshop, so.
And that's kind of what I was going, so like, if each of us can work through the worksheet that Sherry gave us, try to come prepared at the next meeting with, at least, we get the fund status report for every one of the, kind of have your idea of what you think the budget looks like for the fund status. We can kind of see where we're at. I have a feeling we'll have relatively similar numbers for the most part, which might move us past needing a full-blown work session to kind of have that discussion.
Right.
And then we do need to kind of wrap it up by the end of, we need to have this in by, we should have it to Sherry by the beginning of July so that she can do what she needs to do to submit it to the auditor by the 15th.
Okay.
So, alright, that's where we're at. Next up is the fire district. Trustee Kittle, you wanna just take
Yeah.
those?
Yeah, so, on Thursday, May 21st, we got a resignation letter from Chief Kavanaugh, effective June 20th, 2026. He's gonna take on, he's a different position with another locality. So, we will be looking for a replacement and interim. You guys saw Chief Kavanaugh's email. What are your thoughts about placing somebody as an interim chief, and how quick do you want to move on that?
I think Tim has done, Tim's our assistant chief currently, isn't he?
He is, yes.
I don't know the others that chief had sort of put forward enough to know whether they're a good option or not.
Yeah, as far as, so I think we have two things here. I think we need to place somebody as an interim chief. And the reason I'd say that is that I would like to get somebody in there to fill the gap, somebody that needs to do, like, chief currently does all the approvals for the fire district, and I think we need to get somebody in there that can start working with Chief and before he leaves on in June 20th, just to kind of get their feet wet so they understand what's going on. So it's a smoother transition instead of one day we have somebody, the next day we don't. I would like to at least get somebody in there as an interim, and then whoever's interim, it's not I wouldn't say it's automatic that they would get the role, but they would, then we would need to interview a couple people, or at least post the job and interview and see where we want to go with it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess first, I'd like to thank Chief, you know, for the time that he's given us. He's done a great job for the township, I think. It is disappointing that he's decided to move on, but at the same time, I think, you know, I understand
Yeah.
his position, and so I wish him the best, and I hope everybody in the community will as well. To that, I think, you know, he's handled it the correct way. He's given us plenty of notice. The downside is, I still think, you know, it's always difficult to fill a position of this nature in a 30-day
Right.
window. So I do think it is prudent to look at an interim position. It's always tough, like, I think you highlighted on it, right? Like, how do you determine who that interim, like, I guess ideally to me, the interim candidate or the interim option would almost ideally not be a candidate for the position fully. But I just kind of lean that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've had situations, and I don't want to try to equate them because they're not the same position in any way, shape, or form. But we've been through that process before. We've appointed somebody to an interim position, and then ultimately, I think that dampened the interest, right? Because people don't potentially want to go through the interview process, spend the time, especially we're not interviewing for, you know, just an average position, right? Like, this is gonna be a process, and we can discuss kind of what that's gonna look like, but it's gonna be a process. Nobody wants to commit that time, energy, and effort, and also, depending on who it is, you know, put their name out there that they're looking for something,
Yeah.
if the feeling is that the decision's already made.
Right.
So that would be my only concern through that process. I mean, I don't know if you've already kind of thought through what your thoughts are. If you wanna have a quick executive session, we could do that if there's more to the conversation, or if this is more high level.
Yeah, I think we should probably just do a quick executive session. I don't have the,
121 G1, I believe, but let me just double check for you. Longest codes of sections of code. G1. If you want to make the motion, it's
Yeah.
121,
So-
122, 21 G1, to consider the appointment.
so I would make a motion to go into executive session due to,
The appointment.
what is it, 122?
122, 20.
Yeah, 122, 121.22, 1 G1.
I will second. Roll call.
Yes.
Roll, yes.
Kittle, yes.
We will enter a brief executive session at 7:19. It'll just be the three trustees for now. All right, it is 7:35. We're out of executive session. No decisions were made. All right, so
Yeah, I'd like to get you guys' opinion on how soon do you wanna post for the chief position?
I think we need to get it up, right away, you know, as soon as we can get something listed. The other thing I would maybe recommend is, reaching out to the Ohio Fire Chiefs Association, and get their help with at least publishing it, pushing it out. I know they've got a pretty extensive network, you know, to maybe get some additional visibility, especially within an arena of qualified candidates.
Okay.
Are you okay kinda doing that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And then the other thing that maybe we wanna look at, and I don't know how you wanna split it up, or I know, I don't want everything to fall on you to have to do it, but we should probably look at reaching out to both of the villages, to their, boards,
Okay.
and see, you know, obviously the decision ultimately is gonna fall on the three of us, but I think, you know, just with past practice and, you know, good practice, we probably wanna solicit some assistance in the interview process. I'm pretty sure when you reach out to the Chiefs Association, they'll offer their assistance in doing that if we want. You know, but even reaching out to, I think it's Alan Robbins in, Chippewa Lake, and I don't know who the corresponding, you know, safety person or, you know, safety services person in Gloria Glens is, but somebody from their board, from their council may wanna be involved in the process as well, and I think it would be good for us to reach out to them and make that,
Yeah.
that offer as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I'd be perfectly fine with,
All right.
you know, if you wanna work, I don't know,
Yeah.
Chief can probably give you pretty good assistance on doing that, but let's get something up, you know.
Right.
I'm good with having trustee Kittle kinda take point on that, get something posted on the website here as soon as you
As
can.
soon as I can, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, the other item we had on the agenda for the fire district is the Medicare paperwork. So, this paperwork just needs signed by, what they call it, an official or basically officer. So, if you guys are okay with that, I can sign these items. It's for, Medicare reimbursement.
Okay, and it's okay with just one trustee's signature on it?
So the first page is appointing someone, and the second page, so they said that a trustee and
Probably the fiscal office.
the fiscal officer needed to sign it, but on the last page, the certification statement says first authorized official, second authorized official. So I don't know if that's, maybe I can just copy that page and all four of us can sign it, and then they can't argue with it.
No, I'm fine, I mean, it's the standard agreement. I know Chief just sent the two sections that needed signatures on it,
Yeah.
but I don't see any reason, if you wanna double check, just to make sure that there isn't anything else that needs to be done, the second official, I'm fairly certain, is the fiscal officer.
Okay.
So I would be fine, to make a motion to authorize trustee Kittle to sign this agreement pending final review, just verify that both of those are done, and then have Sherry sign it as well.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anything else for the fire district, Jared?
That's all I have.
Are you gonna motion to accept chief's resignation?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No. Do we have to accept it?
I don't think we can hold him hostage. I will make the motion to, accept Chief Kavanaugh's resignation effective June 20th, 2026.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Reluctant.
Right.
Alright. The next item that we had on the, thank you, Kristen.
You're
Next,
welcome.
item on the agenda was correspondence. We did receive a, resident email about, no overnight parking, or potential for a no overnight parking sign over, Huss Circle.
Right.
I actually,
Did you go there? I didn't make it out there.
yeah,
so-
they've got the standard no parking 2 to 6 at the entrances to both developments,
Two-
so
2 a.m.
2 AM to 6 AM, for the street sweepers.
Okay.
But yeah, so there's already no overnight parking posted at the front of the entrance, both entrances to the development.
Okay.
It's already prohibited parking. We can already have them ticketed if they're parked there. I know the concern was being in the way of like school buses and, you know, plows during the winter and stuff
Right.
like that, but, I mean, I don't know that we need anything additional.
I'm a resident right there. Can I comment at all at this time? Or any time in this meeting?
Well, you'll definitely have an
That's-
option
that's why
later.
I'm here,
I don't
so-
have a problem. Do you, be careful, you,
That's fine.
go ahead, just,
So what,
you would
I'm-
state your
I've
name.
got the map right here. I didn't realize that was gonna happen. But, is there a complaint of why people can't park there overnight? Because the parking over there has just been stripped.
Sir,
So,
can you
I-
state your name and your address
It's
first?
Daryl Gleard. I'm at 5607. I got the map of this.
Yeah,
subdivision.
that's fine,
So I drew an orange line coming in all the way through.
right?
Alright, so, I'm the guy that sent you the email
Yeah,
about.
About the-
tear up.
Yeah, yeah.
tearing up. This is, by the way, this is your property at the end, that I've been fixing for the last 8 to 9 years. So I live right here,
okay,
so all these residents, along with this gentleman that's been there since this subdivision has been put in,
okay.
knows that there was parking signs put right here.
No
Okay.
parking signs that were put
No,
there?
no, no, there were parking signs, but
Allowing
for
parking?
chip, no, there was a notice
Oh,
of
for-
the bike trail.
For the trail,
And I have the pictures over there.
Okay.
He actually called you guys when they ripped them out 5 or 6 years ago by Chris. Okay, your employee was out there at my house recently.
right,
I'm sure you know that.
Yeah.
So anyways, here's your entrance right here. There are notices up there about the parking on the right side of Lightwood. Totally agree with you,
okay,
right? So this whole side on this side was left clear, or
right, cause the
this was
hydrant,
the parking on this side.
cause the
This is all
hydrants
no
are on this
hydrant.
side, right?
Yes, sir.
Correct,
So,
okay,
and we'll get to Huss in a second,
Yep.
because that makes no sense. This gentleman over here had his employee come out and fix the sign that was missing at my neighbor's house right here. The Huss and Wycliffe street sign was gone.
just the street sign itself,
And at the same time, he slapped the sign in there that says no parking. So that, if you look at this, that means that myself, my neighbors, these people use this parking right here, because they can't park there
right,
for holiday parties. So Memorial Day was just, they had get-togethers, yesterday, because it was nice. So where do you think they parked at? That's the question, so let's get the Huss.
so there's, real quick if I can
Yeah.
interrupt, so there are still no parking signs
Yeah. So,
on this side of the street?
and by
Okay.
your, I got the website on my phone, you guys can recommend it, but did anybody ask the residents? Because you affected 11 houses over there that use this.
Well, I don't know that we made a decision to
Yeah.
put those signs
So I
there.
looked on your website, there was nothing there.
That's,
He put it up.
okay, and we'll address
So
that.
anyways, this was tore up from all the plow damage. I'd be
Right.
tired of fixing it, so I did send that email.
Right.
Was it a little aggressive? I don't think so.
Was
But
alright.
when you do it for 8 to 9, 10 years,
You were
and
fine.
this year, there was 1 foot, at least 1 foot divots cut out of this. The mud is pushed back to here. There's pylons and guardrails that have been hit over the years. So I give it to him. It was raining. He tried his best. There was a whole bunch of gravel. I tried to stop people from dumping there. So
Right.
he's back dragging a bunch of just mud and gravel. Totally get it. It's about a 25-degree grade from here to here. The last of your drainage is here. There's no drainage at the back, so I'm just trying to think like an engineer. This area right here was supposed to be for drainage. That's my
Right.
guess.
Would make sense.
Okay, it totally makes sense. So why would we not fix that if that's yours? That's tore up.
Well, that's
So
a
you don't
separate
get-
issue, but
You don't
we'll
get any
look at it.
drainage, so your stop sign, now your no parking signs here, let's get the Huss. So if you wanna go by your original sign at the beginning,
Correct,
there's a fire hydrant right here. So technically, these people don't have any parking. So where do these people park with guests? You just took that away. They got, I mean, there was people over here, they were parked way over here, cause that's the parking. I'm not kidding you.
no, and I got you, so what we'll
So
need
this
to,
makes no sense.
well,
take that out.
we'll need to look at to see if it was ever actually,
So he said
Codified.
they could not, well, this right here, this new one, they just slapped it up, and it's just amazing, an hour later, my guest got a ticket on their car. It's amazing how that works. I did talk to the officer though. How do you write a ticket against something that's not, hasn't been put in by you guys?
well, that's an unfair ask of they're not gonna be able to check everything, but they
Sure.
rely on us to do it correct,
This
so.
has been there forever.
Well, we're
That-
talking
the
about two
signs
different
at
things. The signs at the
Okay,
front,
then
the
no.
signs at the front are 2 to 6. That's,
Sure.
that's everywhere either side,
Okay.
period.
So,
There's no parking on the
may
street
I
from 2
ask
to
you a
6.
question?
Sure.
This right here, what's so special about no overnight parking? Because if you do it there, you gotta do it on all, you got Tisdale, you got all these over
The
here.
no overnight parking applies to the entire development. Now, whether
Well,
they
there
get,
is.
whether it gets enforced, ticketed on a regular basis or not, I mean, we have this, but I'm just saying, like, that 2 to 6 prohibition is no street parking, period.
Okay,
So it is uniform, so what, I guess, we've got two kind of separate issues.
Sure.
And we do wanna address them. So on this one, we will definitely look into whether or not, because, again, to your point, it is the board's discretion to put up any type of parking controls on the streets or limit them. We did one last fall over on Hooper Drive, I think it was,
I know.
the bend over on, clear on the opposite side of your development.
so
Um,
that would.
If it
would
was
you
never
want
authorized,
input-
we will take it down.
Would you want input from residents? Because I can tell you right now, you're probably gonna get at least, I don't know, 22 people in here to tell you that,
Well, sure,
that's silly.
well, here's the thing, like I said, we will have to do a quick, well, probably not even that quick, but we'll have to do a search to see if any legislation was ever authorized banning it. If
Sure.
it wasn't,
Yes.
then the sign just comes out.
So like,
If it was,
Matt told me
then
there
it's
was-
something,
they couldn't find it.
well,
He couldn't find it, so he did look.
Well, see, I don't have the records for what was done years ago, we don't know why it was ever taken down
So let me
originally.
show you what was up there. So this has been up there for forever. And Chris, your ex-employee told Ben, which is your current employee, to take it down. So my neighbor actually, his name was Drew, he actually sent pictures of this and was like, why are they taking these down? So he sent that to you years ago. And
well,
this
you wouldn't
is-
send it to me, but
so this
I get
is-
your point.
I just wanna know what the common sense is. That's a dead end street.
Sure.
So you have no parking and no parking. Zero.
Yeah, I didn't wanna say that any of this did make sense. What I'm saying is if it was a resolution or anything that was passed by a prior board authorizing no, or, prohibiting parking in here, it would need an action by this board if we wanted to
Gotcha.
consider taking it off.
Totally.
If there was nothing that was done, we can just take the sign down. So we'll get an answer on that,
I offered to pay for it. This is the original.
offer to pay for taking them down?
I'll take it down. I said, I'll grab the Sawzall right now.
So I
But-
think I know why that ended up the way we put it back in is when that was removed with the prior service director, we had all the new signs delivered last week before, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. Probably they went back in to put what was there before back in because they.
But this was the one that was in the past.
No,
And they
so-
were down here more,
yeah.
weren't they? Or were they
So
up
I
here?
wondered
We had
just-
one right here and we had one closer to the trail. So it's basically, it's not saying no parking.
Right, it's just,
saying-
it's telling people,
Hey,
don't
yeah.
park here to use
Yeah.
the
Over
trail.
there.
Correct,
Yeah.
don't,
It gets
don't,
crazy back there.
well,
I mean,
right, and
I
the,
love it back
and the
there, but it
idea
gets
is,
nice.
the idea with this parking on your common sense comment, right? The idea behind this is to keep people from outside the development from parking here. They don't park here to use the trail, because like you said, it doesn't say no parking, it says no parking for the
I was
trail.
told it needed to stay clear. That was the reason.
Okay, well, we'll definitely do some more homework on that one,
Here is the 10-foot easement that you guys should be taking care of.
okay?
Okay, so this is, obviously, it's been pouring down rain and soaking.
Right.
What can we do about this? Because they're sinking plows in this thing. I had a broken plow and sitting right here, my driveway's on this side, so I hit it right there.
Well, and that's something I think Matt and Carrie can work on.
We did, Matt went down there today to have a look at, did a drive-through to look at things, so they are doing it. They,
Concrete.
it's just because it has been neglected for a few years, and Matt's now picking up what was neglected for a while.
Sure.
So I know that he did drive there, have a look,
He did stop by. He
Yeah.
did actually help us with a major flooding issue at my house and my neighbor's house, maybe. He pointed out that, we thought that you guys, not you, but
Right,
the township was in control of that. Well, there's some major flooding back there.
right.
I mean, I sent them pictures, I think.
There's only so much we can do, but we can definitely advocate on behalf of our
Yeah.
residents, because we deal with the exact same thing in the development that I live in, with
My
storm
neighbor's got a
stewards,
roof in the
the storm drains not being done, so.
But I'll leave this all with you.
Please.
This is a crappy picture, but there's your
fire hydrant.
there's fire hydrant. That's
Okay.
us right
We will
there.
work on getting the answers for you on both of these issues. You just give us, a week or so,
Yeah.
but we will be in touch.
Thank you. You have my email.
Yes,
Those
I
are
do,
good, by the way.
very much, thank you. So, I mean, I guess just to piggyback on that, right, the other email that had come in was more asking about additional signage on top of it, and I don't know where you guys are, but I kind of feel like we're at a point where the developments have enough signage on parking restrictions at the entrances,
Right.
that I don't think we need to go to the expense and the effort of putting additional signage elsewhere, you know? And Carrie, if you can work with Matt on kind of some of those drainage concerns, and I'll
Yeah,
work
no,
on
we
the,
were today.
I'll work on
We're
the sign
working on it.
stuff
Okay,
to carry on with what Matt did.
sounds good.
Alright,
I'll take that from that then.
under unresolved business, I don't know where you guys are, I think, you know, we're still kind of in the working process on the first two, probably actually the first three items. The big ones, unless somebody's ready to take action on those three, I think we move to the service department
Yeah,
items.
that's good.
Okay.
Well, should we, I know we were trying to schedule a meeting for the employee handbook. Should we try to just come up with a meeting date here?
Well, I wanted to, prior to, you know, I think
There's other work to do.
well, the chief
Yeah, okay.
replacement's gonna probably dominate the schedule for the short term, because we're gonna potentially need to schedule some
Okay.
interviews
Right.
and other meetings. I hate to keep putting it off, but,
Right.
you know, it might be
Well, we'll just keep it on the agenda.
correct.
Okay.
You know, just that way we don't lose sight of it, but I don't know that we're ready to move forward too much on those. Carrie, do you wanna take the three items for the service department?
Yep, so in the last meeting, I know both of you said that you'd like to ask Matt some technical questions about the laser. Matt's here to answer them for you, whatever your questions were, because I couldn't answer them for you. Do you remember what your questions were? Now you do.
Well, I mean, I actually got a chance to talk to Matt this morning. I feel comfortable with what we discussed, and I don't know, Trustee Kittle, when you and I were talking, when we discussed it at the last meeting, I think the real question was, you know, how big of a difference is there between the two models, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a negligible price
Right.
difference. I think that, you know, buying something that's being discontinued and may or may not have support,
Absolutely.
moving forward,
Yeah. no,
probably
I
not
think
worth
there's
it for a $300 savings, I think it was, 300 and some change. You know, so I'm perfectly fine with going with Matt's recommendation, for the laser you wanted to purchase. Matt, do you remember the model number on that one by any chance?
I think it was, the 622 was the last three, it was
GL622N laser WRC602N remote.
But cause the 612 was being disconnected,
Yeah,
so the
so this is-
622.
This is it just in here, so you
Okay.
can see it.
Yep.
That
Alright.
one.
Well, then I would make the motion to approve the purchase of, the GL622, laser and combination receiver. Quoted price is $3,293.80 from Precision Laser and Instrument.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then the second item that Matt brought to our attention was the grader, that they are looking to hire,
the rent
Yeah.
one.
the rental for it. So the one that came in was for the grader 120, that would be a total of 9,704.
Matt, you wanna give a quick rundown, just so everybody's aware of what we're doing with it, and why we need
Yeah,
to rent this?
I was looking to try to rent a road grader since we don't have one. We got a bunch of miles, all the country roads we wanted to cut the berms on, reshape them. The grader's definitely the ideal thing to use for that, to be able to cut the slope the way we want. Obviously, the subdivisions aren't gonna need any, berm work done on them since they have curves in them. There is a subdivision out there on Smith Road that Rain Tree, that could probably stand a little work done in there, but I mean, the majority of the work's gonna get done. Ideally, we wanna do the roads that are gonna get chip sealed first. you know, that way the water can get off the roads. If we wait and try to do the berm cutting after the roads are chip sealed, it puts us at high risk for collateral damage to the road surface. Cause we are dragging dirt out onto it, and the blade of the machine scraping on the edges, there's always gonna be some collateral damage. It can take place, but on a brand new, you know, paved or chip seal coating, we have a high risk of damaging, so we were wanting to do that, do those roads first, and then do the other roads, all the rest of them. You know, cut the berms on. If it dries up enough, we'll try to clean some ditch also with it too. Definitely a lot faster than it is trying to use a hoe to dig on certain areas. But the main reason is to go out and cut the berms. It's been many years since they've all been cut from the looks of it. They're higher in the roads in a lot of places. We can, you know, we could go out and try to cut the berms with the excavator. It's a lot slower. And, you know, we don't have the adjustments. You know, the county used to use one of those big grade all machines to cut berm occasionally they primarily use a road grader also, but they'll use a grade all, but it has the adjustable bucket where you can adjust the, you know, the angle and everything, and we don't have it on our excavator. So we're very limited on being able to adjust angle where the road grader can do all that.
And just to help, so that everybody's on the same page, you know, the idea is by cutting the berm, we're gonna keep water from accumulating on the road, get it off the roadways quicker. Also come winter, you know, less collects and accumulates, and it'll also hopefully help extend the life of the road, because water is what does the majority of the damage.
In the winter time, like you said, not having the water under ponding up and freezing.
Right.
Definitely.
So that would be the idea, and then just, if I'm looking at this correctly, you were looking at a 1 month rental.
Yeah.
So with the rental rate, the rental insurance, you know, fee, environmental fee, delivery fee, it looks like the total quote's for $11,356.
That was
That's the 140.
in,
Yeah,
and a lot of it's gonna
120
depend.
is the 9,704.
Is the total?
Yes.
Okay.
A lot of it's gonna depend on if that smaller one's still there, cause it's usually more popular to rent
Sure.
than what the big one is. The big one will be fine, it just, like I said, it's a little bit more money. You know, we tried to figure on a month, that way to try to, you know, leave room in there for burials or rainy days or,
But you can get everything done in a month?
no, I think so, as far as burn cutting.
You can get everything done in a month if we do it?
Yes,
Alright.
as long as it's not raining every day or we'll get it done. But that's.
We got all the
idea.
rain we're gonna get, we're not gonna get any more.
So,
That would be nice.
Yeah, I don't know, what are your guys' thoughts? I mean, I know we hadn't, you know, expressly budgeted for this, but I do think,
But we did hire or outsource the mowing so that the service department can do
this type of work.
maintenance and this type of work. So, it's hard to monetize and put a dollar value on the longevity of the road, what this work will pay back.
Right.
So we can't really monetize that, but the idea is that with this type of work, recutting those berms, allowing the water to drain off the road properly instead of collecting or
Should
running
extend
a
the
gully
road.
down there when we have rainstorms, that it will prolong the life of the road. So, for $10,000, I think it's probably worth.
Well, I think, yeah, and I tend to agree. I think that maybe the way to move forward with this is, you know, obviously, as Matt mentioned, if he calls tomorrow morning to rent the smaller one and the bigger, and it's not available, you know, kind of throws things off. So I would make the motion to approve, you know, up to $11,500 for the rental of a grader, with the understanding that Matt will inquire about the smaller one first at the lower cost. But should that not be available, he has to go ahead to get what he needs to get the berms cut. He will get them all cut. We're renting it for June, is that what you're?
Yes.
Alright, so June we will get all the berms cut. And go from there. So I would make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One more.
And then the hiring of again, when I talk with Ben, so typically he was hired from the 1st of May till October. He worked 4 days a week at 32 hours in a week. He was on at $21 an hour. That Ben would like to see an increase in line with the percentage that we had in January for the rest of the staff. But I said that's obviously something we would have to discuss, whether we bring it back at the same, or whether we.
He was at 21 last year?
Yeah.
Was that through the end of October or through the beginning of October?
Kind of weather dependent really to how much, but I think from what I understood, I think it was the end of October because it was so sunny and nice still in October, so he was still able to continue doing the work.
So do you have a,
Yeah, what have you got any discussion
well,
first?
yeah, I don't have any problem, you know, I talked with Matt about the need, and the benefit that it brings in. 32 hours a week is what we've done in the past. We paid him 21, I'd say through the end of October is good. I don't know, I think the number, did you have a number in mind? I mean, if we went up to 2250, that's 7% increase, more than a 7%
Okay.
increase on last year's. And you're looking at, he's doing what, 36 hours, and then, so,
32 hours.
32 hours, sorry.
It's gonna be about 20 weeks or so. I came up with around $14,000. And road and bridge salaries were
Yeah, we've got,
way under allocated.
well, we're gonna catch up on that soon, though. We're gonna start to close the gap on that with the hiring of Tyler. But yeah, I mean, I would say for now, I'd be comfortable authorizing the 2250 for 32 hours a week through the end of October. Obviously, we can always revisit that if weather conditions, projects, whatnot. I know Matt and I talked about, the possibility that, depending on what the weather's like in November, there may still be things, that spill over. Because the other thing you gotta remember too is, even though as a part-time employee, he doesn't qualify for the benefits, you still have OPERS that's factored into that as well.
Okay.
So that's another 14% on top of,
Yeah.
the wage. So I think that's within the budget, and we can review. Obviously the plan for next year may change depending on how everything else works, but I think it's worth seeing if Matt can make effective use of the extra resources that we're given this year.
So he's always been referred to as the guy that mows the ditches.
Yeah.
He's available for other work too, though, to help out with the berm cutting and everything else,
Yeah.
right?
Correct, and he can help with like road control, traffic control during road
Yeah.
project work, things that we're doing of that nature. So I mean,
Okay.
it adds a lot of flexibility to the staff to be able to have them out there. I think the other thing that we had talked about too was, the goal is for 32-hour weeks, but there will be some weeks where, he might only work 3 days and then a 5-day the next. So I don't think it needs to be a hard cap, but I think, the expectation that I would have is that this would be something Matt should be tracking as our department head. Keeping that 32-hour average. I don't wanna see, all of a sudden he's averaging 40 plus. So, I would make the motion to approve, hiring, Tim McGill at, $22.50 an hour for 32 hours a week through the end of October, starting on June 1st, which would be Monday.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Alright, next up, the next item is, the APC server room. Or the APC units in the server room. we had a power glitch, and all the network went down. The batteries are aging out. They didn't reboot, needed a manual reboot. Battery was really, really low, needed charge. I talked with Keith, he's gonna be getting some quotes together for us, but I just wanted to give everybody a heads up. Probably looking at around $600 to $800 to replace both the old unit and get a second, like, backup unit, so that should the first APC fail at any point or have a similar issue, you have backup in there so that we don't lose the network and the electronic system here in the safety services building. So, I don't know if you guys wanna wait, you know, 'cause I was hoping to have the actual quotes for you to look at tonight. I don't have those back from KGC just yet. We can always table it till the next meeting. I don't think it's something that's so pressing that it has to be done. But I just wanted to kind of give you guys both a heads up.
Yeah, let's wait for the quotes.
Only other things I have, administrative announcements, obviously, township cleanup days are going. If you haven't received your vouchers already or haven't stopped in to pick them up, they're available through June 19th. And we have the township family movie night coming up on July 17th.
Yeah, June 19th approaching quick, so
Yeah.
if you haven't used those yet, make sure you use them.
Alright, and with that, I will open the floor for public comment if there is any.
Can we get the voucher tonight?
Well, I don't have any with me.
I
Christie?
do.
Yes, you may.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Alright, well, with that, I will go to trustee comments if there are any.
No comments?
Just to remind residents that the service department are going out at the moment and trimming the trees, and it's mowing season, so if you are mowing, please keep it off the roads as best you can, because I have seen a couple of bikes go flying this week, which is not a good thing for us. So yeah, so the tree cutting will be taking place over the next few months. And that's it.
Thank you. With that, I will thank everybody for coming out, and I will make a motion to adjourn at 8:08.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.